Have you ever wondered how the universe, in Greek mythology, actually began? Not just with Zeus or even his mighty father Cronus, but the very, very beginning of existence itself.
It's a really profound question, yeah. And for the ancient Greeks, the answer wasn't simple, not at all. Their creation myths are layered, dramatic, and honestly full of surprising twists and turns that shaped everything that came after.
That's right. Today we're taking a deep dive into those earliest stages of Greek creation myths. We'll explore the foundational beings, trace the dramatic power shifts, and uncover how it all led to the Olympian gods we know so well.
And our sources for this deep dive are like a treasure trove. Seriously, we've got everything from authoritative myth encyclopedias to academic explorations of ancient texts like Hesiod's Theogony. These will really help us unpack these complex, layered stories and pull out the most important insights.
Our mission is to navigate these generations of Greek gods, from the formless void right up to the established order, uncovering surprising connections and pivotal moments that truly shape their cosmos. You'll walk away with a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed on this epic saga. So let's set the stage. Before there were even Titans or Olympians, there was, well, something. What did the Greeks envision as the absolute beginning of everything?
Before anything else, the Greek myths tell us of the protogenoi, which literally means firstborn. These were the initial beings to emerge at creation, the most basic components of the universe itself. What's fascinating here is that unlike the later, more human-like gods, the protogenoi weren't typically anthropomorphic figures with powers over things.
Okay.
They were the elements or natural forces themselves.
That's a key distinction. So not gods of the sky, but actually being the sky. Who are some of these foundational figures that truly kick-started everything?
Let's start with chaos, or chaos. Its interpretation has a kind of dual nature. In earlier cosmology, chaos wasn't necessarily a jumbled mess. It was more like an empty, gaping chasm, a primordial void.
A void?
Or even the primordial goddess of the lower atmosphere, mother of air and mist gods and flying creatures. But later on, it evolved to be understood as a swirling, confused mass of elemental matter from which all creation emerged.
That's a significant evolution in thought. So from this chasm or mass, other beings truly began to take shape.
Precisely. Next came Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. These two are absolutely critical because they are the Earth Mother and Sky Father. Gaia was one of the first deities routinely depicted with an anthropomorphic form and a distinct personality, and together they became the progenitors of the powerful Titans.
And then there's Tartarus. I know that name from later myths as a place of punishment.
You're right. Tartarus, the pit, was one of the very first beings to exist, embodying that dark, bleak realm of death. It's located beneath Gaia, a kind of anti-heaven,
Right.
Curving beneath the earth in a semicircle, it's where the most heinous of beings would eventually be imprisoned.
And what about Eros? The one we usually hear about is Aphrodite's mischievous son. But he appears much earlier in some of these foundational myths, doesn't he?
That's a great observation, and it highlights a fascinating philosophical point. The Eros we often encounter, Aphrodite's son, is indeed a later incarnation. But in the earliest accounts, Eros was a primordial force of generation, absolutely essential for the universe itself to procreate.
Wow, okay.
He was sometimes called Phanes or Protogenos, meaning the firstborn, signifying this role. Some mystery cults even had a unique silver egg creation story for Phanes, from which he sprang to set the universe in order.
A silver egg?
Yeah. It's not just that Eros is older, it's that early Greek thought saw procreation as a fundamental primordial force of the universe itself, not just a feeling or later God's domain.
A silver egg. That's a huge departure from the more common void. So Eros was the spark that got everything else going. What other forces emerged from chaos?
From chaos also came Nyx, night, and Erebus, darkness. They became consorts, and their union led to an unexpected development. Aether, the bright upper air, and Hemera, day.
Ah, light from dark.
Exactly. This showcases a beautiful emergence of light from darkness, with Nyx and Hemera moving across the span of ether in a constant cycle, bringing night and day. It's quite poetic how they personified the daily rhythm of light and shadow.
And what about time itself? Was that also a primordial being?
Yes, time too was personified. We have Cronus, the personification of time, and an Anke, necessity. These two were often described as incorporeal, snake-like beings who twisted around each other, encircling all of creation.
Snake-like.
They were intertwined to bring order and predictable progression to time. It's absolutely crucial to distinguish this primordial Chronos, time itself, from Cronus, the Titan. Though their names sound very similar, they are entirely separate entities.
Okay, good distinction. So Cronus is the very concept of time, and Cronus is the Titan who, well, we'll definitely get to what he did. Did the physical elements of the world, the sea, the mountains, also emerge as primordial beings?
They did. The primordial lineup also included Pontus, the sea, and the Aurea, the mountains, both born directly from Gaia. And then there's Oceanus, the world-encircling freshwater river, and his partner Tethys, who personified the flow of fresh water. These foundational beings laid the groundwork for everything that followed, setting the stage for the next great power.
So with this cosmic backdrop, the primordials gave rise to the next great power. This is where the story gets really dramatic, isn't it?
That's right. The next generation to dominate the cosmos were the Titans. They were the powerful children of Uranus and Gaia, a race of immensely strong and cunning anthropomorphic gods. Unlike most of their primordial parents, they were the direct predecessors of the Olympians.
And there were 12 of them initially, born from Uranus and Gaia. What were their names, and how did they generally operate?
The original 12 were Oceanus, Cousus, Crius, Hyperion, Iapetus, Thea, Rhea, Themis, Mnemosyne, Phoebe, Tethys, and Cronus. It's notable that 8 of them married their own siblings, forming powerful couples like Oceanus and Tethys or Cronus and Rhea.
Wow, keeping it with the family.
Very much so. They ruled from Mount Olympus in central Greece, and while powerful, the sources emphasize their often cruel and tyrannical nature, especially that of Cronus. And this brings us to a crucial pattern in Greek mythology, the succession myth. This often parallels Near Eastern myth, where one divine ruler is overthrown by the next. Uranus, the sky father, truly initiated this cycle of generational overthrow.
I remember Uranus was not exactly a doting father.
Far from it. Uranus developed a deep paranoia about his children, particularly the monstrous one-eyed Cyclops and the 100-handed, 50-headed Hecaton chair.
Yeah, those guys sound terrifying.
Right, and after them, the Titans also seemed to threaten him. So he imprisoned all of them within Gaia, their mother, essentially trapping them inside the Earth.
And Gaia, being the Earth Mother, would not stand for that. What was her solution?
Exactly. Gaia was distraught by her children's confinement. She forged a sickle made of adamantine, an unbreakable material, and called upon her children to punish their father. Only Cronus, described as the wily, youngest, and most terrible of her children, was willing to answer her call.
Only Cronus.
Yep. He ambushed Uranus as he descended to consort with Gaia and castrated his father with the sickle.
A truly violent act to begin the Titan rule. And it had even more surprising consequences, didn't it? New beings were literally born from that violence.
Indeed. It was incredibly generative, though brutally so. From Uranus's spilled blood on Earth, the Erinyes, or Furies Avenging Spirits, were born, along with the Gigantes, or giants, and the Meliae ash tree nymphs.
Okay, so giants come from this too.
And in a more surprising twist, when Cronus cast Uranus's severed genitals into the sea, a white foam developed around them, from which the goddess Aphrodite emerged near Cyprus. It really shows how deeply embedded violence was in the very act of creation in Greek myth.
It's fascinating how Cronus, despite being known for his cruelty, also ruled during a period often referred to as the Golden Age. What does this contradiction tell us about the nature of these ancient myths?
It's a striking paradox, isn't it? And it's where we get a really interesting insight into ancient thought. While Cronus's rule was indeed tyrannical and marked by infanticide, especially as he tried to prevent his own overthrow.
Right, the whole eating his kids thing.
Exactly. Yet this era was later associated with a utopian period of innocence and bliss. The Romans, who called Cronus Saturn, particularly regarded his reign as a symbol of a lost golden age, a time of peace and prosperity.
So why the contradiction?
Well, it highlights the complex nature of ancient myth. It's not always a straightforward historical account. Sometimes these narratives reflect a yearning for an idealized past, or they might be retrospective justifications, making Zeus's reign seem even more righteous by contrast. It also shows how myths can be reinterpreted over time to suit different cultural perspectives. And despite ruling during a supposed golden age, Cronus himself was haunted by the same fear that drove his father, Uranus. He too was paranoid about being overthrown by his children. This led him to swallow Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon as each was born.
Just swallowed them whole. But his wife, Rhea, had a plan to save their youngest, Zeus, and finally break this horrifying cycle.
She did. Rhea, with the help of Gaia and Uranus, managed to save Zeus. When she gave birth to him in secret, she substituted a huge stone wrapped in swaddling clothes, which Cronus swallowed, believing it was his son.
He didn't notice.
Apparently not. Zeus was then raised in secret in a cave on Crete. nursed by nymphs on goat's milk, and guarded by the warrior-like curates who would clash their arms and spears to muffle his cries so Cronus wouldn't hear him.
That's incredible dedication and foresight. And once Zeus grew up, it was time for this second coup, the one that would change everything.
Precisely. Upon reaching adulthood, Zeus was ready to act. The Oceanid Metis, one of the daughters of the primordial Oceanus, and the goddess of wisdom gave Cronus a magical draught that forced him to regurgitate his swallowed children, who emerged fully grown.
Wow, they were just waiting in there.
Fully grown. Then Zeus liberated his monstrous uncles, the one-eyed Cyclops, who in gratitude forged Zeus's thunderbolt, Poseidon's trident, and Hades' invisible helm.
The iconic weapons.
Exactly. He also freed the 100-handed, 50-headed hecatoncheires, who would prove invaluable by hurling massive boulders during the upcoming war.
And Zeus gathered other powerful allies too, didn't he? Like the story of Styx.
Yes. Styx, another powerful Oceanid, was the first to ally with Zeus, bringing her children. Zelos, Nike, Kratos, and Baia personifications of rivalry, victory, strength, and force.
Nike, like the brand.
That's the one. These weren't just names. They were the very embodiment of the qualities Zeus needed to win his war against the Titans. This explains why the gods later swore their most solemn oath by the river Styx.
Ah, okay.
The War of the Titans, or Titanomachy, lasted for 10 long years, fought between the Titans on Mount Tartarus and the Olympians on Mount Olympus. The ferocity was immense, with Zeus wielding his thunderbolt and the hecatoncheires pelting the Titans with stones the size of mountains.
The war ends and Zeus wins, establishing his new order. But what happens to the defeated Titans? It's not a simple happily ever after for everyone, is it?
Not at all. Most of the defeated Titans were banished to Tartarus, the deepest pit of the underworld, where they were imprisoned and guarded by the hecatoncheires. However, there were exceptions and unique punishments.
Such as?
The female Titans, or Titanesses, seem to have remained free, and some, like Themis and Mnemosyne, even became consorts of Zeus later on.
And certain male Titans avoided that fate too, right? Like Atlas and Prometheus.
That's right. Oceanus and Hyperion may have sided with the Olympians or remained neutral, retaining their roles. But then there's Atlas, famously punished to hold up the heavens on his shoulders.
Weight of the world, literally.
Pretty much. And Prometheus, although he initially supported Zeus, was later chained to a cliff where an eagle pecked out his ever-regenerating liver daily. This particular punishment, however, was for helping humanity by stealing fire, not directly for fighting in the Titanomachy.
It's interesting how even the punishment isn't always eternal in some accounts.
Indeed. Some traditions suggest that the Titans were eventually released from Tartarus. In these versions, Cronus might have even gone on to rule the Isles of the Blessed, a blissful land of the afterlife, or escaped to Italy to usher in a golden age there, where the Romans knew him as Saturn.
Saturn, right?
Others claimed he lay in eternal slumber on an island beyond Britain, guarded by Briareus, one of the hecatoncheires. These varying faiths show the flexibility and regional differences in ancient myth. It wasn't always one single story.
Zeus has won, but the cycle of usurpation, where a son overthrows his father, is still a major threat. What does Zeus do to break this generational pattern and secure his own reign permanently?
This is a pivotal moment, and it's where Zeus truly solidifies his rule. Zeus marries his first wife, Metis, the Oceanid goddess of wisdom, counsel, and deep thought, who had helped him earlier by providing the draft for Cronus.
The one who made Cronus regurgitate.
Yes, her. But then Gaia and Uranus, ever the prophets, foretell that Metis will bear a daughter wiser than her, and then a son who would overthrow Zeus, just as he overthrew Cronus.
So Zeus is facing the same fate as his father and grandfather. What's his move? Does he swallow her?
To prevent this cycle from continuing, Zeus acts decisively. He tricks Metis, who could change shape, into turning into a fly, and then yes, he promptly swallows her.
Whoa!
What's incredible is that Metis was already pregnant with their first and only child. She continued to exist within Zeus, raising their daughter Athena inside his mind.
And then Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, bursts forth fully grown from his head. That's quite an origin story.
Exactly. Maias, from within Zeus, crafted robes, armor, a shield, and a spear for her daughter. Athena later burst forth fully grown and armored from Zeus's head, often described as assisted by the smith god Hephaestus, cracking his skull open.
Ouch. but effective.
Very. This act allows Zeus to absorb Medus's wisdom, gaining him the epithet Wise Counselor, and crucially ensuring his eternal rule by definitively breaking the cycle of succession that had plagued his predecessors. It's a symbolic act of integrating wisdom into his own reign, making him unstoppable.
So Zeus finally establishes a lasting Olympian order. But even after the Titanomachy, Zeus faced further threats to his dominance, didn't he? It wasn't entirely smooth sailing after that.
No, his dominance still had to be solidified. The most notable challenges were the Gigantomachy, the giants' war against the Olympians. And it's important to remember these giants were born from Uranus's blood, distinct from the Titans.
Right, different group.
Different group. Then there was the monstrous Typhon, a fire-breathing giant that truly tested Zeus's power. Zeus faced them both, ultimately showcasing his continued dominance and firmly establishing the Olympian order that would rule the cosmos from Mount Olympus. So the Olympian order was established, but what became of these earlier immense figures in the minds of the ancient Greeks, and how do they resonate with us today? Despite their central role in the creation narrative, the Titans were not widely worshipped collectively in ancient Greece, unlike the Olympians.
Really? Not even Cronus?
They were more figures of foundational myth than objects of widespread devotion.
But Cronus did have some specific festivals, didn't he? Like the Roman Saturnalia?
He did. The unique Cronia festivals, which the Romans called Saturnalia. These were often associated with the harvest, and interestingly featured a temporary social reversal where masters served servants, a fascinating overturning of social norms that harked back to an idealized, simpler time.
That sounds kind of fun, actually. It's clear their legacy lives on, even if direct worship was limited. And in modern English, we often conflate titans with giants as beings of immense size, which wasn't always how they were depicted in Greek myth.
True. The term titan now implies huge size, but in the myths, they were more about power and being the generation before Zeus. But their names endure, signifying immense power and primordial forces. We see their enduring presence in pop culture, from the God of War video game series and Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson novels.
Lots of kids love those.
Absolutely. And even the names of planets and moons, like Saturn, which is Cronus's Roman equivalent, their impact on storytelling and our collective imagination is undeniable.
And there you have it. You've just experienced a deep dive into the very fabric of Greek mythology's origins, from the primordial forces of creation, through the tumultuous rule of the Titans, and finally to the established Olympian order under Zeus. You've now delved into the profound origins of the Greek cosmos, uncovering the dramatic cycles of power and creation that continue to fascinate us today.
So, considering these cycles of power, wisdom, and inevitable change within Greek myth, it makes you wonder, what might the next generation of cosmic rulers look like in mythology, or even metaphorically in our own world?